of course, I've discovered that it is tremendously hard work. You wake up in pain every day, and there is little appreciation for what you do. The pay is not good, and the love that you have to have for it must be tremendous.
Well, you have to go to class pretty much every day, and class entails basically doing exercises over and over again until you get as close to perfection as you can.
Probably the biggest challenge that they face is the awareness that is constant, that their instrument is their body, and it's not something that they can walk away from. It's not something that they can rest against a wall and come back to some other time. So their training and challenge lies in that they're really developing a lifestyle rather than just learning a form of dance or a form of art.
Your body is your instrument, so you want it to look as best as it can. And when you have to look at it all the time, it really gets into your head.
It's more like, oh, I have to imitate this perfectly. So it's more like a perfection sport. And you get really frustrated and down on yourself a lot because sometimes it's not perfect. I'd say you need to be strong mentally and physically because I feel like ballet is one of those really tough mental sports.
You are muscle and bone. That's the way that it should be because most of the ballet world is that way. And fat on a dancer's body can just be distracting from the purity of the line.
I did audition for some ballet dance programs in the city. You could see their ribs through their leotard and they had bones sticking out all over the place. And like you could just tell like they were starving themselves to be really good at what they do.
Companies nowadays, maybe they don't want dancers that fit the Balanchine body type, which is basically their sticks. Like they've got long torso, long legs, no like shoulders and hips, definitely hips no wider than the shoulders, and very, very thin.
Previous to Balanchine, there were a couple of touring companies that had dancers international in their background. They looked like people. The women looked like women and the men looked like men. And what George Balanchine created was something that was more of a stick figure drawing. And as far as my opinion goes, I think it pretty much killed ballet for the art form that it was. You could say that a lot of the joy that was experienced by dancers of previous day was also killed with that because their focus was turned much more so to the aesthetic qualities of their body rather than expressing who they are personally through their dance.
I had a teacher who I really, really liked, and I looked up to him a lot because he had a really interesting style of teaching, and he paid a lot of attention to me and seemed to think I had a lot of potential, so that felt good. And then we get 2 weeks off for winter break, and throughout the year, you're dancing 6 days a week, you just get exhausted, and so 2 weeks of break is just so nice. You just get to go back and maybe rest for a bit and not have body aching every day. I had class, and after class he called me over, because generally after class he'd call me over to talk to him, and he'd give me corrections and say, look, you're doing this wrong, or you keep doing this. He pinched my hip and told me I needed to lose 4 pounds, which was a very precise number. And I mean, I'd never heard anything like that. I broke down and left the room crying. And eventually I did lose the 4 pounds. Then a couple of weeks later, and I never actually really said this before, but he told me, you lost the weight, good job.
The pressure that a dancer experiences in training has to be self-imposed. It's really nothing that someone else can put onto them.
When I was really little, I danced all the time. My mom says that I danced before I walked, which is really, people say that a lot and it's kind of cheesy, but it's kind of true. Like if you watch old home videos of me, I'm dancing.
When I was first exposed to ballet, when I was sort of conscious of what it was that I was seeing, I was 10 years old. I went with my mother to see a production of Giselle in Los Angeles. And the man that was dancing was an international superstar. The quality of dancing was very high. And I looked and I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. it just looked like it was more fun than what should be legal.
You put so much into ballet, but you also get like so much, you know? I know all of us in our class, when we like do a triple pirouette or like get our leg up a little higher in our arabesque, like it just makes you feel like you've achieved something, no matter how little it is.
I think that the attendance is good. I think that the popularity is there. I think that the dream that a young child has when they have seen their first ballet, of being able to do that, of wanting to do that, is still very much alive. And as long as there is some exposure for young people of ballet, that they will continue to dream and it will continue to grow.
I know some people think it's really boring, but a small percentage of people, regardless of like what generation you're in, whether it be like 2000s or like 1800s, they've all come to watch ballet and see how beautiful it is.
I can't see myself living a life without dance.
I try to impart onto the students that I am charged with that they need to dance for themselves, not for me, not for anyone else. And were they to go on professionally, this would apply as well. Because if they do, they lose the passion and the love that was making dance attractive to them when they first started. And dance is joy. It's something that expresses your own personal spirit. When you're doing it for someone else, that all gets lost.